Beautiful Wednesday morning in the city of Lagos. Good morning and welcome to Today in the News here on Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adeum. You're looking to the newspapers for today, starting with Vanguard. Major headline on Vanguard says Rivers hopes mixed views as emergency ends tomorrow. Ibas asks residents to nurture peace already built. Elders sue for unity. Fubara returning as a conquered man, says CUPP. Governance may suffer, says Okori, Abga's founding chairman. PDP warns Fubara against defection, demands probe of interim rule. Tinubu returns from vacation. Major headline can be found on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Top banner says federal government drags Sowore, Facebook, X to court over criminal post against Tinubu. Story can be found on page 6 of the Vanguard newspaper. NIN SIM linkage reduce fraud, boost national security. Tinubu says bandit commander Ado Aliero kills traditional ruler in Sasfe, Zamfara. Experts disagree as presidency says inflation will drop to single digit. Private depot deserted as Dangote refinery begins direct fuel supplies. Lagos key to attaining Nigeria's global influence, Sowore says, and lower banner says food security. Federal government unveils new agric investment incentives. Story can be found on page 8 of the Vanguard newspaper. And lastly, Nigerian profs earn gardeners 3-hour pay. Ex-OAU Vice Chancellor Bimbola says. Away from Vanguard, straight into the Punch newspaper. Major headline on the Punch says federal government unveils agric reforms, moves to create 21 million jobs. Fresh incentives will boost food production, free Nigerians from seasonal dependency, says Shatima. Often others endorse measures, seek timely intervention. Women farmers tax federal government on loans. Others. Tobana says oil reforms drive $18.2 billion deal, says federal government. Tinubu returns to Abuja after cutting short Paris leave. Lower banner says how Nigeria can attain global power, Sanwo-Olu says. Don't derail Awujaya selection, council warns ruling houses. And lastly, on the Punch newspaper, 4 hospitalized as fire guards 2 Lagos buildings. Away from the Punch, straight into the Nation newspaper. Major headline on the Nation says Tinubu reforms revolutionary. Ex-Speaker Dogara, president inherited a comatose economy. Tobana says Sanwo-Olu, Lagos critical to Nigerians' world power. Okpebolo unveils roadmap to reform education in Edo. PDP's open ticket in line with Olawepo Ashimi's positioning on zoning. Away from the Nation, straight into the Guardian newspaper. Major headline on the Guardian says insider threat, low confidence, humble $14 billion aviation target. Can find story on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Tobana says PDP throws 2027 presidential ticket open to all regions. Food, transport, housing, others remain key inflation drivers. And lastly, on the Guardian newspaper, Tinubu returns as Fubara set for reinstatement, LP6 emergency rule probe. That's what we have on the front page of the newspaper today. When we return, Mr. Benro Olajuigbe will be joining us for a quick analysis. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News here in Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adewumi. Joining me in the studio today for a quick analysis is Mr. Benro Olajuigbe. He's a Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, a look into a top story for today. The federal government of Nigeria has unveiled new agricultural reforms and incentives aimed at attracting investment into agriculture. The key goals include creating 21 million jobs, especially in rural communities, lifting 35 million people out of poverty under the National Development Plan. Creating 21 million rural jobs is a big target. What do you think the federal government needs to do in order to make this happen or this goal met?
Well, something. At times when you see them on paper, they look laudable. But they are not enduringly sustainable in terms of achieving them when you face the reality. What has government done about the environment? The most critical issue in agri production today is the issue of security. What has government done about that? 62 were kidnapped even in Zamfara the other day, but this week, on Sunday or Monday. And last week, it's the same story. And these are ordinary farmers staying in agrarian communities that are getting this type of horrendous treatment because of failure of government to secure, because of failure of government to protect, because of failure of government to defend. So most of those things, when they say it, I just laugh. Because the same way Buhari was talking of rice revolution, through anchor borrowing and everything, but we know where it has ended. As a matter of fact, they built pyramid of lies under Buhari, which was actually a pyramid of corruption by the Emefiele and his clique, who managed the so-called fund for rice revolution. So I don't have faith. When government has not, they continue to make a unachievable projection of 20-something million, when record is showing that in the first 1 year of this administration, 15 million Nigerians were dumped into basket of poverty. And more are going in drove into that basket. Who are they lifting from poverty? What is the benchmark of poverty so that we can begin to track them when they begin to lift these 20-something million out of poverty? What is the benchmark they have set? What is the poverty rate? What is their poverty level? Have you seen anything that is easier said than done? They just come up and make a very wide statement of ambition that they know within themselves that it's not likely to materialize. When you are putting a policy in place, two things you have to consider. Whether the policy is adaptable to the environment. The environment here means the security environment, the protection environment, even the necessary support, or whether it's even adoptable by those you are making this proposal to, because of the system that encumbered large-scale production. For example, those who make contribution to agriculture, 90% of them are poor. They are not used to, they have limited land. The land tenure system is part of it and everything. Except the government is saying that those who are politicians, who are in business, who have money will be given tractors and all those things they are bringing in so that they can do that. Thereby, if it is the big players that they are focusing on, that means that it's going to hinder most of the peasant farmers poorer than they are before this thing. Those are the two environments. Adaptability of the policy and adaptability of the policy are critical to policy implementation. The government has not come out about that, do anything about that. So the food basket of Nigeria that we have been hearing since is Benue. See what is going on in Benue. So if the orange market, the orchard business, the yam business, the yam food and everything, if those people are not secure and they are not protected, how will your policy, agricultural policy, be situated in the context of violent extremism, extreme violence, where people are mauled down callously and dastardly on daily basis. So policy is not about solo thinking. It's about comprehensive infusing comprehensive thought into what you want to do. As a matter of fact, when you drop a policy, the most important thing for you to do, to start with, as a great thinker and as a great government, you will first of all reflect on why this policy will not work, not how it will work alone.
Talking about why this policy would not work. There have been agricultural reforms and plans in the past. We know the Operation Feed the Nation, the one that was done in 1976 under the Obasanjo's administration. Agricultural transformation agenda as well, 2011 under the Jonathan, administration. Farmers and farmers organizations have said that all these reforms and implementation, the major problem has been implementation. What will you say the federal government needs to do for this particular implementation to hold?
Well, I've just told you that you have to secure the environment. Security of the farmer will work on this thing. Farmers that are being tasked by terrorists, pay tax to terrorists, even as communities. What has happened for that? That is why I say that is the most critical thing you have to do. Securitarization of not necessarily the policy environment. That has to be done by the president. It's not negotiable. Look, when we say that you can't have development in a persistently insecure and environment that is ubiquitously facing threat of insecurity and violence, they think we are joking by saying that. That is the truth. And that is why it is difficult for any policy now, presently, to succeed. Even the one that they can control the environment, how well have they done in doing that? Look at the CNG proposal and project and policy. CNG, using gas or this. It's easier said than done. Go there now. Even those that have converted their cars to CNG are regretting. At times on long queue, nobody, those policies are purely escapist strategy for government to just escape the condemnation of a particular policy, particularly this way the fuel high policy that Tinubu brought up. That is why he dropped the idea of CNG policy. The cost is going higher, and both the cost of installation and the cost of gas itself, they are going higher than was before. And the more people get there, that has been my fear. This thing is just pure, simple economic of supply and demand. It was cheap because people are not using it in Nigeria, which is natural case in every economic principle. If there is no buyer, of course, the seller will sell at giveaway prices and everything. So you didn't envisage that. You just say that this is alternative to your policy of fuel high. How far is it working now? It's not. It's not. And so, and that the other one. Now you remember, you are historical in your presentation. There was Operation Feed the Nation. At least at that particular time, the country was it worked substantially, except if people have forgotten. Look, one of the policies that came with Operation Feed the Nation was that all those big supermarkets in Nigeria of those days, UTC, Olivant, AG Olivant, all of them, Michelin and everything, they were told clearly that most of the things they were selling in Nigeria in terms of food, they can no longer sell them, except they go and plant them in Nigeria and bring them to their stores. That was part of the package. It's not about Operation Feed the Nation alone. It was about domestication of species of food and this thing that you sell in your supermarket. And it was strictly done. And those people have acquired plantation elsewhere. For example, I know that somewhere like Michelin Tire, then acquire land in Araromioku, in those states, along a road, where they have a rubber plantation to be fed into their production mill. So, like other people like that, that policy worked. It's only that when the nationalization policy came, it wiped up everything that was good about the policy. And Chagari came, he studied the gap in the Operation Feed the Nation. He brought up what he called Green Revolution. That is when he was creating all these river basins, Wena River Basin, Suma River Basin, Rima River Basin, all such things across the country. So that those are the structure provided for the success of Green Revolution. But it became political. Political in the sense that money were given out to loyalists. Most of them pretended they were farmers. And I don't want to talk of the anchor borrowing policy of federal government that Emefiele used to siphon money from the central bank, as we are witnessing today. And the consequences, I just told you that they lie, building pyramid of lie about borrowing, and those that were borrowing, to the extent that the paddies of rice were gathered, and they built empty shelf that padded shelf, and they call it pyramid. They launched it in Abuja here, deceiving international community and everybody that we are achieving food security mark that the administration was set. And this one is coming now. I've told you, when you tell me about policy, the first thing I don't look at how fine the policy is of paper. I look at the environment, where the policy will grow. Where you are going to grow that policy, I look at that environment. The security environment is not friendly to that policy. Secondly, is it going to be competitive? And look, all these things come back to even re-victimize the poor at the end of the day. And look, a government should balance issues when you are talking of development. When the minister, I will give you an example in this administration. The government said that, okay, we are not going to be using macadamized road, that is a road built with bitumen. And this bitumen, we have like deposit of it in Ondo State. Developed nations are still using bitumen. Instead of looking at the shoddy work the contractors are doing, you now say that you are going to be using cement to have concrete road. So what are we facing today? Cement manufacturer like Dangote now has a ready-made market from the federal government contractors and federal government, to the extent that the cost of cement today has skyrocketed beyond the reach of average Nigerians. So they cannot, that is one big huge consequences for a country that is having 2 million housing shortage. So and what inflated the price was that contractors are buying in bulks now. So they don't even need ordinary people. If they can't buy, they put it back. But rather than looking at conduct studies, we just come with rough ideas without looking at the overall consequences. This same bitumen was used by the colonial master, and the road endured for more than 60 years. Look at the roads that colonial master built in areas like Yaba. For a long time, no pothole on that road, on those roads around Yaba, where the officials, the DOs were living around that time during the colonial rule. And even the Second Republic, roads that were built during the Second Republic was at least relatively better and lasted longer than what we have today. It is corruption that is eating into the fabric of the nation, and we are running esta sketa, blaming one thing or the other. We just thoughtlessly draw policy that has no connection to reality, to the environment where it's going to be practiced, and we clap for the government, and at the end of the review of the administration, is fraud. What are they saying about these characters that are in power today? Praise Buhari to high heaven at that particular time when we were telling them that the green tie wearing man at the central bank was dubiously implementing policy and benefiting. Nobody listening. Today, Dogara can say anything that the government is making. Is it Dogara praise Buhari to high heaven? So a lot of them, I don't take them serious, just like their policies. When I see commitment, I see the data and what you prepare, what is on the ground to absorb the consequential shock, fall out of your policy, then I can believe you. It's just the same way they deceive the poor people, and I was talking loudly then. They said that increase is only the rich that are benefiting from fuel subsidy and everything. Is it true today? The poor have been wiped away. Many have died of sickness that 10,000 naira could cure. Many have developed high blood pressure because they can't feed their children again. And these are silent troubles that Nigerians are facing today. And let me shock you, because they are looking at the value chain of food production. Value chain does not translate into food security for a nation. That they are talking about, that the value chain will be rejigged and everything. What of assuming that you have the value chain perfected, those who are going to benefit are not the farmers, but the businessmen who will pack these foods and send them out of the country. And hunger continues here. Just an international version of what using cement to construct roads is bringing to the housing sector. It's what you are going to have. Food security feed on this. One, availability, accessibility, affordability, and so on and so forth. Those are the parameters to measure food security. Food can be available and you are not able to afford it. It can be available and you are not able to access them due to insecurity. So there are a lot of things that need consideration when you are talking of building a very sustainable and endurable policy.
So how then can the government ensure, transparency and accountability and in implementing these reforms, given the fact that past promises did not fully materialize?
If a policy is not going through the poor direct, there is nothing, and you can trace them, you can see them, the structure is clear. I mean the structure for dispensing whatever, whether money, whether materials, whether support. If they are not clear, you can't be talking of transparency and accountability. What is transparent and accountability in a country that is every motive for everything has corruption behind it? Those that you are going to put there, what do you see it? You see, if the way they do things in Nigeria, God, it's an aberration. Just 2 days ago, this last week, Ogun State governor appointed some people as his, I'm just using it as an example, as aides, over 2,000 persons. And all of them are from his party. Is that government? Government that cannot provide equal access to opportunities, or policy that cannot provide equal access to opportunity? Is that policy? Look, a lot of things make you to grow sick in a country like this, because those are the fulcrum of accountability. We don't interrogate them. We don't. The motive behind most of the things are very devilish and sickening. River State governor will resume duty tomorrow, as you read in your review. What is he going to resume? He has been castrated because even the local government election has been conducted behind him. Instructions have been pulled out of his leg. Why should a government be that desperate to the extent of frustrating democracy in the first place, removing governors that was elected by people? You can declare state of emergency. Jonathan did it without removing the governor. The governor was providing administrative responsibility duty while the state of emergency was being executed directly by the federal government without appointing administrator to go and conduct elections. And some Nigerians who know nothing about the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or those who are politically wood-inked, or those that have surrendered their brain to political manipulation, continue to clap. And that happened elsewhere.
Away from that, into a second story quickly. The federal government of Nigeria sued activist and former presidential candidate Yele Sowore. The charges relate to a post Sowore made on social media, X and Facebook to be precise, in which he called President Bola Tinubu a criminal. The Department of State Services, DSS, earlier wrote to Sowore and the social media platforms to demand that Sowore delete the post and that his accounts and posts be banned. Federal government claims Sowore and the platform did not comply. The federal government argues that the post is false, defamatory, and intended to cause a breakdown of law and order. Just calling a public figure criminal in an opinion or rhetorical post necessarily meets the legal threshold for defamation or cybercrime, as the DSS claims.
No. Let me start with this. Assuming without conceding that in letter and in what he has put off, Sowore called Tinubu, President Tinubu, a criminal. There's legal remedy for that. It's incumbent on President Tinubu to decide whether to take Sowore to court or not to prove it, to show that he's not a criminal. And the onus is on Tinubu and on Sowore to prove in court that you are indeed a criminal. It shouldn't have come to the level of this degeneration that Department of State Service, for emphasis sake, Department of State Service, DSS, we take a suit on behalf of the president. It's, for God's sake, it's not Department of President Service. It's Department of State Service, who should be focused on gathering intelligence for security of the country, more so in the context of this violence that is ubiquitous in Nigeria of today. As a matter of fact, if the president have prompted DSS to take that, and I don't believe that the president actually did that, they will have even advised the president, God, this is your personal matter. It can be done. You had Trump day before yesterday saying that some newspaper malign him and he is considering suing them for defamation. The president of America. That is what happened in an unguarded society. Whether Sowore is right about calling him criminal or not, it's left for him to prove. It's not left for a state structure to be deployed against a citizen. And let me even shock you. When a president or any public officers have offered themselves to serve a country through election, they have no right to decide how people will judge them. They have no right to decide how people will judge them because they have offered themselves to service and they have removed every pretense to privacy, at least to very large extent. We can be talking of this if Sowore had called the wife of the president who wasn't elected a criminal. In fact, that will not be tolerated because you have not given her responsibility to the extent that he has stolen one thing or the other to call that fair. Or any of the children of the president, except you have exceptional proof for that. But for president, these things, look, we are not wired the same in society. Don't you see the NAMA? They draw the meaty painting of Trump when he was in government the last time, circulating all over the world. In fact, some of them represented him with pig. If you can't withstand the heat, don't come to the kitchen. It doesn't matter how you say it, because we are in a society that is somehow subservient to the extent that it is sounding like a moronic empire where you have emperor that cannot be challenged, that cannot be talked about in a particular way. That is why we are seeing all these things. But President Tinubu have the prerogative to take Sowore to court, not DSS.
So what are
supposed to be a Directorate of State Service? What is being done in taking on behalf of taking action on behalf of the president means that is personalizing responsibility. But if it is a direct threat, if there is a direct threat, which is not personal, to the office of the president, then DSS can take action. For example, if some people are conceiving mutiny against the presidency, against the president, then it becomes the responsibility of the state to ward off that. And not when personal integrity is being challenged, or when a personal attribute of a person, whether president or everything. So he has no right to deploy DSS to represent him, and DSS has no right to take off such duty, to take off such duty.
So what are the dangers?
When as a country we continue to write to Meta, in fact, when I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a joke. What happens to your law? What happened to your policy as a country? What happened to your structure of justice delivery system? What happened to your justice administration system?
A quick one before we go. So what are the dangers if the government, frequently uses cybercrime or criminal defamation laws against critics of the media?
Well, I think look, when the choice we made to leave military rule, is to embrace democracy. We either have democracy or we don't have. Democracy thrives on a tripod. One is that supremacy of law. That law is supreme, nobody. And the other one, the second one is equality before law. That is, both the president and the gateman, they are equal before law. In Venezuela, a former president had just been jailed. We have seen president going to jail like ordinary people. It can hardly happen here. The one you call a king, Alakwetu of Ikwetu, is now serving his term in the United States. Can that happen here? And the last aspect, which is the last leg of the tripod for rule of law, is civil liberty. Civil liberty, the rights of human person, the right of individual and citizens of Nigeria is the whole essence of democracy. Otherwise, you have no right to ask anybody to go and vote. Otherwise, we wouldn't have struggled to come out of military rule. If we still have to go back in practice under democracy to military rule, pretending to be democracy. Autocracy is not accepted. There are certain things we don't want to hear. Without conceding that the president is a criminal. We have seen a president, yes, we have been called names that they are not. there are certain things well, it doesn't sound well in ethically when you hear such. But then, if the person has proof, being a president does not mean that you are not a criminal. Abacha was a president, but we have seen what he stole. And many of them, like that, even in Nigeria here, we have seen what they have stolen. If you look at the comfort of most Nigerian governors and everything, you will honor gate men more than them, the people you call excellence.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us today, sir.
That have done enough havoc to Nigeria. But that is not to say that the president is a criminal. And that is not to say that it's one. But let us not be living in a demagogue of that foolishness, that when you occupy a position, you love your country. Most of them don't love Nigeria. A governor stole 80 billion naira and is still governing, remotely governing today.
Our time has been fast spent, sir.
Is that a patriotic Nigeria? A farmer struggling in the forest is better than such governor or such president or such senate president. A lot of them are facing crime charges of stealing, looting their states. Today they are in National Assembly. How do you grow a nation like that?
Our time has been fast spent. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you very much. That was Mr. Gbenro Olajuigbe, Executive Director, Emergency Risk Alert. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms seen on your screen and on our website www.vanguardngr.com. My name is Ololade Adeomi.